This is the second video of albums from the 2013-2014 albums countdown season. My name's Kyle, actually. I mentioned that maybe once or twice on video before from the allmediareviews.blogspot.com or All Media Reviews blog. I just wanted to show a couple of things. That I didn't. Anyway, this is the Dangle Trio album I mentioned in the last video. Anyway, this is their second LP called Grow, Rise and Shine. I really remember this stuff in my head. I haven't listened to it that many times, but I liked enough of it. That's why it ended up that high on my list or my countdown. So anyway, and I was just going to show a few other albums that I just got physical copies of that before I continue the countdown. Other Country Ensemble, this project from Greg Harridges and some of the former members of Thelonious Bosch. They put out a live album from one of my favorite venues in the Twin Cities, Black Dog Cafe, recorded in March. I wasn't at the show, sadly, but really good stuff if you like sort of progressive folk, ethnic, jazz. They cover a lot of spectrums, but they're a really great group. By the way, the album I think is just called Live at the Black Dog. So it's like 6 songs. And then I think, by the way, on this album, Dean, one of Greg's songs, one of his tracks from his Telluric Currents album is actually performed, at least referenced. I think it's Rama Be Good, but I'm not certain about that. I'm looking at the list. Or maybe it's Ush Kadara in the medley in the first track. Anyway. Dean McGraw, another favorite local artist of mine, and Eric Gravatt, who actually played drums at one point with the fusion group Weather Report and McCoy Tyner, among others. It's a local, now Twin Cities resident. He plays live a lot, and him and Dean did a studio record titled Fire on the Nile, I believe. So anyway, I've only listened to it like maybe once or twice. I like it, although I always say about Dean, most of his music is vastly even better live, but some of his studio work still is good. Alright, some other titles I ended up picking up that are on my list. This is the Alphabetical Order Orchestra, this Scottish group, which is kind of an offshoot or the current main project from some of the members of the Scottish band My Latest Novel. It's only 4 songs, but it's like a 10-inch 45 vinyl. It was through the like Pledge Music and everything. So, and then I did pick up the Self EP, which didn't quite make the top 21, but probably could have been in there if it was a little longer. Has the song Hey Hipster among some others, but the first Self album, new Self album to be released really in like almost 10 years, and more than that actually in terms of physical. But yeah, he was on Jimmy Kimmel and some other appearances and getting a little more buzz. It's good to see more people starting to get into Self, or at least get exposed to Self. So, much better than some of these other word Selfs. I always think of, when I see the word Self, I think of Self and Matt Mahaffey. So, and then I of course did purchase, I only listened to the digital version, you can see I haven't even opened it, the Casey Crescenzo Symphony, the More and Attrition is it's titled, but I do have it. I did order it, and I have mixed feelings about it, although I don't really fault anything on how it came out. It's just what Casey wanted to do, but it's really very much in the vein of classical music, maybe modern classical, somewhat modern in the last 80 years or so. But anyway, some people really love it, some people didn't care for it, and it doesn't really remind me or many of the Deer Hunter, but it doesn't really matter. He's going to do another one. The next one might be better, it might be more in the same, I don't know, but I did pick it up. And then a band I've loved for a number of years put out their second record, Warpaint, the self-titled record. I did pick up on vinyl and did get signed by at least a couple of the members. In fact, I think I got this signed as a pre-order. But anyway, this record actually, to be honest, is kind of disappointing. But it's not necessarily a terrible record. It just wasn't like The Fool, their first record, or so much even the Exquisite Corpse, the EP that I really fell in love with. Which I have both those on vinyl actually as well, which if I make vinyl videos I'll have to show those off a little bit, but I don't know, I guess I'm giving them a pass and we'll see what happens, what they do next, but I've seen this pattern with some artists that I tend to like, and then they end up going in some different directions. This sounded like demos to me. It sounded very subdued, and the songs didn't really get into gear or create the mood that I loved on some of their earlier music. But I mean, a couple of the songs, Biggie, what is it, Disco Very, I think that's the one that was a single, and then Love Is to Die, have some memorable moments on them. But if people are saying that this is their favorite Warpaint, well, they're not the same kind of Warpaint fan that I am. But we'll see. I enjoy this band so much anyways that I'm just gonna give them a pass on this. I hope they don't go the way of St. Vincent, but maybe they do, and then I'm pretty much going to be known as an early Warpaint fan so much as a late Warpaint fan. I may not even keep that record. So, on to the countdown. Before I get my camera got cut off, and hopefully this doesn't get cut off like that, like it happened the last time. Number 13 is the band Dream the Electric Sleep. I believe they're from Kentucky, like Lexington, Kentucky. And this is a record titled Heretics. And the best thing I can say about this is it's kind of a great blend of a few different styles, but primarily modern progressive or college progressive rock, indie progressive rock, whatever you want to call it. The singer has a wonderful voice at times. He's very good with falsettos. He sounds a fair amount like Jonah Nagler from The Velveteen, and a little bit like Jimmy Necco from Ours and some other singers, but the writing is very mature on this. The song Elizabeth, probably my favorite part of the whole record, although I'd say the title track, which opens the album, and Elizabeth and the third track, Utopic, are sort of a suite of sorts, but the crescendo on Elizabeth is just amazing. And they've been getting some buzz among the progressive rock fans and festivals and communities, so that's kind of why I was kind of almost forced into checking them out. I heard about them maybe a year ago, but I never really got around, and I heard they did a lot of like long extended blues solos, which there is a blues element to this, there's like a classic rock element to this, so they kind of do mix up a lot of styles, but as a whole I think their biggest strength is they know how to create a mood, and their songs don't drag. Actually, they flow and they crescendo. A lot of the crescendos in this record and the emotional elements really work. So Heretics from Dream the Electric Sleep, that's what the inside. I'm not going to show the booklet, but it's very their first record. It has a lot of similar elements, and I actually may grow to like that one even more than this at some point. I don't know. I bought it though, so. All right, number 12 I don't have a physical copy of, but that's from another band I caught on really late, a band called I Am the Morning, this duo from St. Petersburg, Russia, I believe, and it's a female singer and a piano player, a male piano player and arranger, or he has a classical background, I guess, but their album Belighted it's called, and I pulled up the write-up on the blog just to give some favorite songs like KOS, Gerda, The Howler. Howler is a song which is maybe a little different than the whole record, but uses samples from an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, but in a really good way. So it's a little post-rock, but they really do have a marriage of like modern progressive rock or acoustic elements of progressive rock with a female voice, like a lot of falsettos and kind of emotional, delicate female vocals with classical music elements and arrangements. So Belighted, they have a couple other records, another record like an EP, and I'd say I enjoy those other ones too, but I think the Belighted is maybe accumulation of their best work finally come to display, and we'll see what they do next, but a really good discovery on the K-Scope label, which is a label I'm discovering more new music beyond the main bands I think of on there being Steven Wilson and Anathema. So that's number 12, Belighted from I Am the Morning. One word, they don't have any spaces, by the way. Number 11 is going down the list. I do have, thankfully, Marketa Irglova's album Muna, her second LP. And in some ways, I actually checked out I Am the Morning and this Muna record on the same time because I think they both were released in August. And I like this album more at the point, and I guess I can say they're pretty close, but they're different in a lot of ways. This is sort of chamber pop or chamber folk of sorts, but she uses a lot of piano arrangements that work well and vocals. Marketa Irglova is known for being in Once and the movie Once and part of the Once soundtrack for the film, and of course The Swell Season with Glenn Hansard. But as far as individual songs, Gabriel I think has become maybe my favorite song on this record. But I would say, I'd say it doesn't have a weak song or a weak moment. It flows pretty well. This right here, what else? Fortune Teller, The Leading Bird. There's just a very sad, melancholy, emotional element to her music. I think her previous record I found to be the same way, which was called, I'm blanking on spacing on her last record, but Anar. But yeah, she's living in Iceland. Maybe some of her music reflecting that. There's one or two songs that features this woman named Ida, who's Iranian, but has now resided in the Twin Cities. When I went to see Marketa Irglova in concert a couple months ago, the Cedar Culture Center, a whole horde of Iranian students and friends and everything that know her showed up for that show, and they actually may have known her better than Marketa actually, but she plays this daf, I think it's called a daf, this Iranian percussion instrument, and then she does some vocals on this record. Muna, I can never remember this stuff, but anyway, very good record from Marketa. I think she's one of the best female singer-songwriters working today. I just love the way she uses piano and her lyrics, and even the first song has this kind of almost spiritual, I wouldn't call it gospel or religious, but it has this very uplifting kind of, which is kind of weird because some of her music is very sad or emotional, but that part is the first song, Point of Creation, it's very uplifting, or sort of, it can get your spirits a little higher than they might be, I guess, with a lot of gang or choral vocals, I would call them. So, Marketa Irglova, Muna, number 11. All right, now we're going to the top 10, and I should mention now I'm probably only going to go on this video down to number 6, so I can do like the top 5 in one separate video. So number 10 is an album I don't have a physical copy of at this point, but it's from the Danish. I think they're Danish. Danish? No. Are they Danish, or are they from Norway? I think they're Danish. Yeah, Norway. Okay. Of course, I was thinking of Mew, but Norway's answer to Mew. They're a band called Team Me put out an album called Blind as Night. Their second record. Very, very similar to Mew, but similar to some other groups, but also they have a little bit of their own thing going on. A lot of, energy and gang vocals. Their previous record, their debut album, To the Treetops, I grew to like more and more, even after the end of the year list kind of stuff that came out. It's a great energy record. And this record, Blind as Night, is, I would say, almost as good, in some ways better because it's more varied. They have more like electronic elements, and some of the lyrics are a little darker. But F is for Faker is probably the one, immediate song that comes to mind. They released that single last spring before the record came out, and it has a lot of the kind of natural high vocal harmonies and stuff like that. But just to name more specifics, I didn't even Riding My Bicycle, the all-time high, the title track, Kick and Curse. There's a whole bunch of really good songs on this record. It's not a bad record really per se, although I guess I can't say I got as addicted to it as the To the Treetops, their debut record, but still a really good record, and one that I definitely will be listening to more in the future for sure. So, all right, now on to number 9, because if the Team E was number 10, and we should get a new record in 2015, so if that would have happened, it would have been weird to have both Team Me and Mew come out in the same season, but it didn't. But this is one of my current favorites, songwriters, Kimbra. Her album, second LP, like Team Me, The Golden Echo, which the version I got here also came with some kind of lithograph, if I recall, right here. And I'm kind of a fanboy, I'll totally admit that. Anyway, her first record came out in 2011, originally, the preferred version in my mind, Vows. But and this record is similar in some ways, but quite a bit different in other ways. But it does have a lot of really good songs on it. Probably my favorite, the catchiest tune is probably Miracle, which is just like a total danceable, upbeat pop number. But very soulful. But I would say Carolina, especially the bridge in that song, I totally love. Immediately, that was my first favorite track on the Golden Echo. Just off the top of my head, or I'm just looking at the list. Gold Mine is one that I've grown to really like, as well as Madhouse. Nobody But You was one of the early singles she released, and that's still a really good track. It's very catchy, funky. Madhouse as well. There's some great guests. Teen Heat, the opening track, has a very interesting rhythm, even though it's sort of offbeat, but it's hard to forget. It's very memorable. And then the opening single, she released 90s Music, which a lot of people didn't care for. I was a little bit on the fence at first on it, but I grew to like it, even though it's very different from the rest of the record, and there's a lot of weird vocal effects on it, but it works as a whole. I mean, I almost was thinking of it a little bit like Muse's Supermassive Black Hole, but I don't think it's quite that cheesy. I think it works, even though it is odd and quirky. Kimbra somehow managed to make it work, and it probably will be considered the song this album's known for best, even though the song that really should be played everywhere is Miracle, but it's kind of a minor hit, unfortunately, Miracle. So anyway, it's not a perfect record. Like Vows, obviously, it was my second favorite album from 2011, but from that season. But it's still so good. Just Kimbra's just vocals are good, and the layers and the production and all the different guests. Although the guests are kind of a slight novelty at points, I was excited to hear certain guests, and I don't think they added tons. There's one song that sounds a lot like Silverchair that has Daniel Johns. I want to say As You Are, I think it is, which we're still waiting on the Daniel Johns solo record and the Disassociatives EP or whatever is going to happen with that. But at least we did get something besides that hip-hop thing he did from Daniel Johns, even if it was just on one song. And then the bonus song, there's one song with Jonas from Mew and one song with Omar Rodriguez Lopez from the Mars Volta, formerly the Mars Volta, now Antimask. I didn't really think that much of the bonus tracks. I should go back and listen to them again, but anyway. But it's Kimbra, and I'd give it 4 stars, and we'll see what she does next. But still a very good record, number 9, The Golden Echo. Number 8, I believe I still have, yes. I believe this is number 8. Yes, Major Parkinson. The album is titled Twilight Cinema. They're a band from Norway, I believe. I don't want to be mistaken on that, but yes. So they have both Teamy and Major Parkinson. The two bands should do a show together. But this album, Twilight Cinema, it's quite an interesting record. There were some comparisons when I was getting into a band I'm going to talk about in the next video. I had enough interest and curiosity about Major Parkinson, and they're prog rock of a sort, but they're not really sounding like Yes or Genesis or some of these like Transatlantic and other bands that are trying to sound like that. They're more experimental, more maybe influenced by like Mike Patton and Mr. Bungle and Faith No More. The vocalist, I still can't get past the fact he sounds like Liam Neeson, but his vocals grew on me. He's got almost like a baritone style, but 2 tracks specifically really stand out on this album. The second song, Impermanence, and The Wheelbarrow. The whole record I really enjoy, but those 2 have like riffs, some textures, and just the piano part in Impermanence I never can forget. It sounds like something from like, I don't know, an 80s soundtrack or something like that. To think Liam Neeson could have been in that movie, you could like sync it up or something, but and this vinyl copy, which they only made a limited number, I had to buy. I got to enjoy this record so much that I just figured, why not? It's going to be a limited printing, even though my copy, unfortunately, got a little scraped. I haven't barely even looked at it, but yeah, I mean, the whole record, Cabin in the Sky, Heart Machine, title track. It's very theatrical, very like almost cabaret-ish, but they use a lot of keyboard textures and acoustic guitar and some very kind of dynamic sides between quiet and loud, soft, heavy, happy, sad, or upset, or mad, or whatever. But and their previous record, especially the one before this, I don't remember the name of it, was also really good. Their first album I also checked out and didn't like it as much, but I bought the previous record too, so they're a band I've really fallen for. I don't know if their name comes from I always think of the movie Few Good Men, because I think there was a Parkinson in that, but I don't know if it was a Markinson or Parkinson, but I keep on thinking of that movie and the character in that movie. But anyway, Major Parkinson, number 8, Twilight Cinema. Now, I don't believe I have copies of the next couple. Yes, Grimace. Grimace is number 7. Band from somewhere out east. I'm going to just cheat here and look in here. They're from Romania, the eastern part of the world. Emergence. It's really an alternative rock album, you could call it, but they have a lot of textures. Another band that singer sounds a little bit like Jimmy Necco, maybe a little more like Judah Nagler from the Velveteen, or Evan Conrad from Bed of Stars, but The Satellites, I think, is my favorite song on the record, but the record really flows. It's about like 13, 14 tracks, and not a song I really feel like skipping. None of them are really long. I mean, is it prog rock? There's a few moments here that you can almost say they change time signatures and add textures, but as a whole, it's just very catchy, energetic, layered, with some twists and turns album that has just no songs I really feel like skipping. I just rather listen to it as a whole. And they're another Grimace, Grimus. I don't know if they also might be a reference to like McDonald's, the Grimace character, or if that's a more literal or historical reference. But anyway, that's number 7. Number 6, yeah, okay, I do have that, and I was wrong about that. If I can track that down real quickly. I have their t-shirt, and I thought I had their compact disc available. No. Someone isn't being very nice to me. Well, oh wait, what's this? I found it. And this is just a red-looking cover, but this is the second record from a band out of Portland, Oregon called the Mercury Tree, a prog rock band, kind of a math rock, prog rock, post-rock, whatever. They're a trio. Very interesting, very catchy, at times very emotional. They wrote a couple of longer pieces on it. The second track, I think it is. No, the third track, Otoliths, Otoliths. That one and Vestigial, probably my favorite moments. There's a song called Jazz Hands of Doom and also Maz Jathy, so they're kind of being funny, playing with words and letters a little bit, but I guess the best thing I can say about this is it's just one of those records where you listen to it and you're like, wow, that's a little unexpected. This part's unexpected. Oh, wow, I like the way they use the vocal harmonies. They have like one vocalist who sings mostly cleans, the main lead singer and a guitarist, and then they have their bass player does some screams, but they're heavy but not like metal, I guess you could say, but they're probably pretty influenced by metal. I saw them with Bryce Plays Drums live back in September, I think it was. The Mercury Tree, the album's called Countenance. Obviously, the Mercury Tree sounds like Porcupine Tree, and you could say that they have similar elements of Porcupine Tree, but not as blatant as some other bands of the past, like Abigail's Ghost and some others. But I would say if you like sort of not overindulgent math rock or experimental, quirky prog that sounds sort of modern, this is definitely one of the better albums that came out this year. They also put an EP called the Family Tree, which also has a song called Secreta Matrix I really got into. That's why when I heard that and I heard they were coming to town, I got really into. Was really curious about what this new album was going to sound like. It's definitely better than I think it's better than their first record. So anyway, the Mercury Tree with Countenance, and I even got, as I said, I was missing. I misplaced this compact disc, and then I actually bought a couple of copies when I saw them, but. Here's their t-shirt for anyone who's curious. It's nothing special, but I thought it would be at least some way to just show I did pick up some material from them. So I'm going to stop now and go on to the top 5, and hopefully if I can get that done, if this one came out okay as well.